another edition of the Trinity, which finds James messing with his mic as usual. So I'm hosting tonight myself, Eric Knott from Reed Celtic, and as usual, I'm joined by Joe McHugh of Video Cells and James Forrest from the Celtic blog. So we've got a jam-packed show for this evening, plenty to talk about. And obviously, we'll start with the game Easter Road yesterday, which, yeah, we won it, so we shouldn't be complaining. But there were quite a few refereeing decisions in that game from Nick Walsh, who, he's nothing if not consistent anyway in the way that he referees games. If we look at the way he refereed the game against the Ibrox side in the League Cup semi-final and his consistency when it comes to giving out cards for contact with the head and also penalties for, well, what was a debatable handball in the semi-final, and it was a debatable handball again yesterday. But then again, Greg Aiken was on the VAR, or he was the VAR for the game. So, I think it's fair to say that they'd be looking at things, looking at every angle they possibly could to give a penalty and examining things to the nth degree to ensure that a penalty is given against Celtic. Whereas last week at Ibrox, the most blatant handball you're ever likely to see is a nothing to see here moment in John Beaton's views anyway, or in his eyes. So the game itself was good first half. Obviously, we got our two goals in quick succession. I think it was 93 seconds between the two goals. You kind of felt that we had a bit of momentum going into the, because that second goal was close to the halftime whistle. It wasn't too far off halftime. And you kind of felt we had a bit of momentum going into the second half, but it seemed to fall away in the second half, and we allowed Hibs to come at us. Obviously, they got their penalty, but I don't feel we ever felt under threat from them at any point throughout the game. I suppose in the first half, we really only had that chance from Martin Boyle, which he somehow managed to put wide, and then there wasn't really anything else. And then in the second half, aside from the penalty, they really didn't get much clear-cut chances either. And for me, I think what stood out more than anything else was the refereeing decisions. So I'll pass over to Joe to get his opinion on it. Joe did a piece on it today with regards to the refereeing decisions. So do you want to flesh that out a bit more, Joe, and talk to us about what you felt about that?
I think folk know what I feel about the refereeing, but firstly, on the football matters, football matches are decided by small margins, and through our current management team, we're working hard enough to get the small margins going in our direction. So there's a case for the last two domestic games that they could have been two defeats, but they weren't two defeats, they weren't even two draws. It was 6 points, and Celtic are back in control of the title race. Win our next two, as we've done our last two, as we've done with our last four, and we'll be top of the league on Sunday evening. So the football is looking better. We'll get to the referee. There's plenty to talk about the referee, but the fall off in the second half performance, I think, massively down to the lack of options that the manager has. I suspect there was very, very few teams that played in European football, and then at the weekend you only made one change. So Celtic made 3 changes from the St Mirren match to the Feyenoord match, just one change for the Hibs game. They hit a bit of form in the middle of the first half against Hibs. They fell out badly. You could tell first 5 minutes or first 2 minutes the second half. Whoops, psychedelic glasses here, James. Just go blind. I'll join you going blind tonight. But
appreciate that, Joe.
It was a strange performance, but the only thing that matters is, despite the conditions, those glasses, despite the conditions and everything else that was thrown at us, Martin O'Neill managed to function a win out of it. Eisen Maeda played 90 minutes in Rotterdam, and again yesterday. It was strange, and I've not heard anything on it, but in the actuals, a sub against Feyenoord and not on the bench yesterday. So hopefully he's involved against Dundee. We really could do with getting a striker, getting some minutes. Again, Johnny Kenny had 45 minutes against St Mirren. He's not been involved at all in the last 2. But coming to Nick Walsh, inevitably, we all know what to expect, and that's just not on. There was 3 big decisions made. VAR could have intervened on them. Jamie McGrath should have been sent off. The reason he put his boot up into Arnie Engel's face was to try and put him off putting a header on goal rather than to block the ball. He got off with a yellow card. That's well worthwhile. Put an opponent in the face and either do some serious damage to them or prevent a goal, and the only cost is a yellow card. So Walsh was quick with that. Eric, you mentioned Greg Aitken. I'm pretty certain it was Grant Irvin that was on VAR with Ross Hardy as the assistant VAR.
Okay, I thought it was Greg Aitken. Maybe I'm wrong.
Neither here nor there. But the names changed, but the decisions and the patterns don't. The handball was ridiculous. It probably was handball. Liam Scales lifted his left arm into an unusual position, but we don't have any evidence for it. The Sky Sports cameras did not come up with a decent shot of it. The best they had was from to the left of Schmeichel's left-hand post. You're looking up at an angle, and there wasn't enough there to say that was a handball. It could have hit his t-shirt line. The ball could have hit his head, the side of his head, his ear, before it bounced towards his arm. Also involved in that incident, Arnie Engels is manhandled, his jersey's pulled, and he's pushed away from the ball, etc. But as we know, when you've got officials appointed by Willie Collum, when you've got Celtic on absolute mute, any decision can go against Celtic, and you will not get a peep out of Michael Nicholson. So you get called over for the VAR review. Sky kept showing repeats, and they were showing you it from the main stand side, which was the wrong side. If they had a camera over on the east stand where the corner kick came in from, you get a far better view of it. But there was nothing conclusive that we're able to show. But as we know, it resulted in a penalty. So that was bang out of order, as was the Yang penalty decision. Yang got a slight touch in the ball to head it past, and Bashiri knew that by arriving a split second late, he could take out his opponent and stop a promising attack. 2 for 1, and Walsh allowed play to continue, and then he halted for some unknown reason. The ball was in reasonable play. Yang had been down for about 10 seconds or so, and Walsh decided to stop play. And I don't think there's any VAR review or one of these phantom silent checks where they go through the motions, and we all know that Celtic aren't going to get the decision. But we've talked about it many times. All we can do is highlight it in our blogs, because the mainstream, the legacy, won't touch this. Celtic won't touch it. But as we all know from the traffic, if you produce a story on the issues in Scottish refereeing, A, the issues, and B, the lack of coverage for these events, you get a hell of a lot of traffic. There's massive interest in it. So I had a story in Nick Walsh straight after the game, got tons of views, and I think over 20 comments. So it's live, it's an issue, it's something that Celtic fans are concerned with. It's something that Michael Nicholson couldn't care less about. I think that's like most issues Michael Nicholson couldn't care less about, just sitting there drawing his salary every month, and he's got another 12 months to go before he might have to face a serious question. So he could be involved in a new manager appointment. Who knows if that's happening or it's not. Nicholson might take a day off when that appointment's coming around. And again, with another Nicholson moment from Martin O'Neill when he was asked about how he found out he'd been charged for the Dundee game. He found out from Sean Maloney. So Sean Maloney knew ahead of Martin. You've got to take Martin's word for this. He wouldn't bend the truth. So, but Martin O'Neill had a missed call on his phone from Michael Nicholson, and lo and behold, at some stage on Saturday, Sean Maloney informed Martin O'Neill that, "Hi boss, we're going to be involved in the Dundee game." So I can't mind. I saw somebody say Martin should have a holiday booked up in December. At his age, he should be heading off to the Canaries for a bit of sunshine rather than then three games at Celtic Park and a trip to Hampden, then Tannadice on Wednesday the 14th of December. It's not really what a 73-year-old should be getting up to, but who knows? So that's a mini rant on most things. Michael Nicholson, Celtic's inability to get a referee, with a lack of squad depth and options for the manager, and of course the SFA. So if I've left anything out, I'm sure James can throw in his opinion.
Yeah, before I move over to James, I will highlight one thing. I showed you the picture today of the kick in the head on Joe Hart at St Mirren back in 2024, in January of 2024 against St Mirren. Now, obviously, it's the opposite end of the pitch, but if you look at the still of that photograph, it's very similar to what happened to Arnie Engels yesterday. Both incidents drew blood, as in there was blood drawn in the Joe Hart incident, and there was blood drawn from Arnie Engels' nose yesterday. And the VAR went back and reviewed the incident in that St Mirren game, and the St Mirren player who kicked him was sent off. So that is a perfect example of the inconsistency in refereeing. If it's a kick in the head and it draws blood at St Mirren, and the player gets sent off, then the player should be sent off in a similar situation like we saw yesterday. So James, in terms of the game yesterday, obviously, give us your thoughts on the game itself. And do you echo what Joe was saying there about the refereeing decisions? Do you feel it was? I've had quite a few people come on the blog today and say that they felt that it was a stonewall penalty. Quite a lot of people said it was a stonewall penalty. But I think I agree from Joe's perspective. There wasn't enough angles of this shown. And if the angles weren't examined correctly by the VAR, then how can you say it's definitive? So what's your opinion on both the game, James, and obviously the refereeing decisions then after that?
Well, the game I thought we were excellent in the first half, which was especially relieving considering we just came back from Feyenoord and we've got a terrible record playing at that ground after European away ties. It has to be said that the reason we know that is that there have been so many games at that ground after European away ties. So maybe that's something for the so-called SPFL computer to sort out at some point. But I thought it was an excellent first half. Second half, we had a 2-0 lead, and I think the word from the dugout was that we should not run through walls in the second half because we chased down every single loose ball in the first half and we won nearly every single one of our battles. In the second half, we did take the foot off the gas a wee bit, but instead of chasing every loose ball, we just concentrated on keeping the ball as much as we could. I thought it was really disciplined. I thought that's the kind of performance you get from a team who the manager has drilled very, very well and gave very, very specific instructions to. Other than the penalty, I don't know how Hibs ever were getting back into the game. They had a wee spell towards the end, which you expect for a home team that's trying to chase a late goal. But other than that, I thought that it was a very comfortable afternoon. And I think that's a credit to Martin. I think it's a credit to the players. I think it's a credit to Sean Maloney as well. Sean Maloney's emerged from this immensely enhanced. And
yes.
If he stays in the dugout, I don't think anybody will complain unless it's in the manager's job, in which case everyone will complain. But Nick Walsh was Nick Walsh. And you know what? I've seen comments today saying that they thought it was a stonewall penalty. But I don't think that's the issue at all. I don't think the issue is whether or not it's a penalty. The issue is that across the city, it would never have been given against him. Not in a year, not in 10 years, not in 100 years. That would never have gone against him. And we are not only refereed to a different standard in that regard, but the media covers it in a different standard as well. Because we get acres of press coverage about Austin Trustee's brushing the goalkeeper's head. And yet, there isn't a single thing in the paper that they suggesting that was a red card yesterday. Or almost taking Arnie Engels' head off. I genuinely don't know.
But the silence is deafening from our club.
Absolutely mental, right? And the penalty decision as well is just obvious enough that it should have generated a few more headlines than it did. Had we been gave that penalty kick, you would not have heard the end of that for a week, a month, a year. Ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Well, I suppose that's the piece that I wrote on it yesterday. I gave the comparison that, if we look at what happened at Ibrox last weekend and the penalty that wasn't given there in comparison to this, and that feeds into exactly what you're saying. And we have a comment there from our buddy on Born Celtic. He's telling us the same thing as well. He agrees with you, James. That there is no way that would ever be given at Ibrox under any circumstances. So without a doubt, It is us being refereed to a different standard, completely different standard. And the fact that there's not a mention of the kick in the head either in the papers today. But then again, that only gained traction because the Ibrox side screamed and moaned and moonhowled about the whole thing at that time.
On their behalf anyway. The media was
Yeah.
already there. They were
Yeah,
pushing
so
on.
I mean,
complaining.
that was going to happen regardless. So, I mean, the fact is our board won't open their mouths. They won't look at the injustices that happen to us. They won't defend us in any way, shape, or form. And it's kind of like I said, you do go back to the times when we had Fergus McCann, and you really wonder if we had a figurehead like Fergus McCann at the club now. He didn't put up with that crap back in the day, and he certainly wouldn't put up with it now. And it's that kind of leadership we need at Celtic. We need people who will fight for Celtic. And the thing is, there is no fight for Celtic. We're more likely to have a statement coming out pillorying the fans and the Celtic fans than we are to get a statement coming out questioning the refereeing, even just let alone questioning those refereeing decisions. So, but I suppose, look, in summation, and going back to what Joe said as well too, we can't really from we always say that why Joe, you say it, why should we be complaining? We're winning, but we have to highlight these things. And everybody thinks that, oh yeah, well, you're winning, so what's the issue? There's nothing, but that's not the point. The standard of refereeing is shit. And that's the reality. And it has to, like, if the club isn't going to call it out, then it's up to us in fan media to continuously call it out. And that's what we will keep doing. We will keep calling it out. But it's like I was talking to Joe and I was talking to you earlier on about it today on the group chat, James, that again, I took the Barcelona Alaves game as an example of the foul counts, the foul counts again. And you had very similar possession in that game. I think it was 69 to 31% possession in that game to Barcelona. And it was 17 fouls to Alaves and 10 to Barcelona. So once again, you have the team who is chasing the ball and chasing the team who has the most possession, committing more fouls. And we had a similar possession stat yesterday at Easter Road, yet we had 18 fouls and hit one. So, and then Joe made the point about the game at Ibrox and how that was refereed by Stephen McLean correctly. Again, the away team had more fouls than the home team. And this pattern continuously emerges with us, where we are the ones it's like Joe said, you said it there, Joe, that, if a Celtic player gets into a tussle with an opposition player like a Hibs player yesterday and comes away with the ball, the whistle is blown. Because they're just throwing themselves to the ground and they're just making the most of it. And that's why these ridiculous decisions go against us all the time. But we could put a full show together and talk about this all night. That's the reality. So we're going to have to move on. And I suppose the next subject, James, I'm going to go to you before I make just a point on it myself, is obviously the Wilfried Nancy situation is dragging on somewhat. And I read your article this morning on it, James, where you kind of stated that it can't drag on, or it can't continue to drag on indefinitely. And yes, you are right in saying that, look, if Nancy comes in, he manages for the Hearts, the Roma game and the League Cup final, then they're the ultimate tests in reality that he should be facing. It gives him the opportunity to test his mettle as a manager. So look, we shouldn't be fearing him coming in to have to step in for those games.
Absolutely.
But you begin to get, as I said, that old PTSD creeps in. The whole Eddie Howe debacle a couple of years back in 2021, and you start wondering, is it a case that we're now at a point where Wilfried Nancy is doing his due diligence? He's spoken to Brendan Rodgers. The board is pushing one thing at him, he's pushing back. Is one of those things the same stumbling block that came up with Eddie Howe? Eddie Howe wanted to bring in his own backroom team, and they wouldn't allow him. And that was probably one of the reasons Howe wouldn't commit to joining Celtic. We all know, and we've read in the media, that Wilfried Nancy wants to bring in his backroom team. Are they now telling him that his backroom team is Gavin Strachan, Mark Fotheringham, Stephen McManus and Sean Maloney, and he can like it or lump it? And is he basically hitting back and saying, no, I'm not putting up with that. If I'm coming, I bring my own backroom team. And are these the stumbling blocks that are coming up? What do you think, James?
I think that there's a lot of speculation about this because it's delayed. This is what happens, but when you've lost the benefit of the doubt, as this Celtic board has. I've been writing about the perception problem at Celtic for years. And I know a lot of people inside Celtic dismiss the whole idea that perception is a problem. But in a situation like this, it's a big problem because it doesn't matter what the delay is caused by. People will blame the club. Does not matter. You know, if it's a paperwork thing, if it's a family thing, if it's a, you know, as you say, can't get agreement on the coaching staff, people will blame Celtic anyway. Celtic fans will blame Celtic anyway. And they'll blame this board's incompetence because this board is perceived as being incompetent and as being slow and taking its time to get things done. There are two X factors here, but that pretty much have decided this. And are pretty much the reason why Martin said today that that Wednesday will be his last game. The first is Martin himself does not want this job. I mean, I think he could be forced to take it, if that's the right word. If things were really, truly desperate, I think he would take it and he would feel kind of obliged to take it, at least in the medium term, up to the end of the season, maybe. But he doesn't want it. He definitely doesn't want to do it. He very much sees this as having been a temporary thing. He came in, did his shift, and now wants to go and hand it over. And the second is that we have passed the point of no return with this deal. And I've got a piece going up about that tonight. You know, you get people like Keith Jackson saying, this whole thing smells funny. You know, Keith, the only thing smells funny is you, mate, and you should bathe more often. Seriously. If you really believe there are people inside Celtic who are contemplating pulling the plug on this deal at the last second and giving it to Martin O'Neill, you are away with the ferries, Kirill, because if we do that, our credibility as a serious club is shot for the foreseeable future, because this has progressed too far now for us to do anything remotely like that. If this deal collapses at this stage, people will blame Celtic, regardless of what the truth is. We could pull the plug right now and get to O'Neill. No one will believe that's what happened. No one will believe that's what happened. And so it's past the point of no return. We either get it done or a lot of people at Celtic Park better clear their shit and get out, because that will be the ultimate travesty at this point. And I know there's a lot of people who are nervous about this prospect anyway, whether we get it done now, whether we get it done in a week, whether we get it done 2 weeks after the cup final or whatever. I know a lot of people are nervous about the prospect. But, you know, I mean, there's people in the press saying, there's no idea what the pressure is going to be like. Life at Celtic is pressure. It's constant pressure. Every game is a cup final. Every team wants to beat you. It's time. It's time. The future's got to start sometime. So why not now? Why not right here? Give him the biggest games. Get them out of the way. He starts as a winner, proves what he's got. Nobody can question him from that point on. And if he isn't ready and he isn't up to the task, then perhaps, just perhaps, he shouldn't be manager in the first place. There is a lot of fear in the air at the moment. There's a lot of nervousness. Maybe no fear, nervousness in there. And I understand why completely. This is a risk. O'Neill's got the team playing well. He's got the team winning, so of course it's a risk. But O'Neill doesn't want to be here much longer. He doesn't want to do this. And there's no way we can pull it out there. There's no way we can pull the plug without looking absolutely ridiculous in the eyes of everybody in football. Even some of the media who are saying today, Celtic should just do the right thing and game. If we did that, we would get crucified by the same people saying it, and they know they would. So, you know, there's a lot of bollocks getting talked about this. It's going to happen, and it needs to happen, because this guy should have at least some time to analyse this squad, get the measure, the kind of stuff that we're going to face. I don't think he'll change the tactics radically straight away. I think that will wait. I agree with Chris Sutton on that. You can't just come in and rip everything up and start again and hope that it works. He's going to need to transition it, maybe not slowly, but steadily and gradually. And I think in a 2 months' time, we'll see a different Celtic. But we've got to bring this guy in. And you know what? I get that. See, I mean, that's what I mean. Bringing in Martin is safer, but
that's what like I was going to say. Would you address Wim the Tim's question there?
This needs to be done. It needs to be done quickly. You
Okay.
can't have a manager on the dugout who doesn't want to be in the dugout, who would rather be anywhere else. Martin O'Neill can't get asked that question every week. Is this your last game? Is this your last game? Is this your last game? And see, while it's working right now, eventually that filters into the players because the players don't have any continuity. And
yeah, but it reeks of amateur hour anyway. I mean, the fact that the fact that Martin even looked surprised when he was being interviewed yesterday at the fact that he was managing for the Dundee game. I mean, that's totally amateurish behavior, you know. So I'm going to go over to Joe on this. I'm sure Joe has a much different opinion. Is the glass half full or half empty today, Joe, or is there, you know, what's the view on it?
Any possibility is open. Absolutely anything could happen with this. James was talking about Celtic's. Shh. Behave. James talked about Celtic's credibility will be shot. Newsflash: Celtic's credibility is shot. I'm sure you watched all the transfer movement during the summer. Celtic have got no credibility. That's why they're trying to bring in the manager that finished 7th in the Eastern Conference of the MLS. So he might be super duper. He might be the brightest young thing. He might have inverted outverts and deep line number 7.5s, but he's not a top rate manager. And the risk of changing manager. Yeah, behave.
We don't know that.
The risk of bringing a manager in mid-season is massive, and when it's a manager coming in from a completely different continent, it gets even bigger. The Celtic players did pre-season training with Brendan Rodgers, and it got a bit stale and flat. They knew Brendan Rodgers was leaving at the end of the season. They knew Brendan Rodgers was getting undermined by the board. Things went flat. So over the course of 7 matches, they've got used to Martin O'Neill, and Martin O'Neill's found a way to eke out results and get the most from the squad. And to bring in another guy, no matter how passive he might be, it's going to be another change to the setup, and it is very, very risky. As a guy questioned in the comments, who's the better bet to win the league, Nancy or Martin O'Neill? So
we don't know the answer to that. We can't possibly know the answer to that. Martin O'Neill does not want to be in that dugout long term. I think that's a much riskier bet than bringing in someone who does.
Here's another news flash for you. Some managers don't tell the truth all the time. Take everything that they say with a pinch of salt, and Martin O'Neill's an absolute expert at it. James, I'm going to finish. Right? I'm going to speak for about 2 minutes, and then you can go. Martin O'Neill talks in riddles. He contradicts himself, he ridicules himself, and he gets on with it. I don't know how long interim's going to be. Russell Martin was a permanent manager for 17 matches. Martin O'Neill could be reaching that by the end of this year. So anything's possible. If the Nancy deal was done and dusted, Celtic could put up a statement and say, Wilfred Nancy is our new permanent manager, subject to international clearance, subject to visa commitments, subject to some of that. So clearly the deal isn't done. Whether it's Celtic, whether it's Nancy, whether it's Dermot Desmond that's got cold feet on it, nobody knows, because we don't get a peep out of the club. Martin O'Neill's put up every couple of days to give updates on it. Before the Feyenoord match last week, he says, "This is my last match," and then it was, "This is my last European match." Yeah. And Wilfred Nancy, according to the favoured messengers, he was likely to be Easter Road watching his new team before taking over on Monday. Funnily enough, Wilfred Nancy, as far as we're all aware, wasn't at Easter Road watching his new team. So the thing is up in the air. No one really knows what's happening. The messengers have been shown up badly. On November the 14th, Michael Gannon told us that talks to bring Nancy to Celtic are at an advanced stage. But we're almost 3 weeks on from that. We are 5 weeks on from Brendan Rodgers resigning and Martin O'Neill coming in as interim manager. And genuinely, they're not really any closer to appointing a manager. So watch this space. Absolutely anything's possible. And especially when Michael Nicholson, Peter Lill and Dermot Desmond are dithering around.
Yeah, that's a fact. When these men are behind the scenes or working behind the scenes, we dread to think what's actually going on. Because, like, as Joe said, and I think it's a very fair point, we are a laughing stock as a club already, and it is amateur hour, and you have to look at the last transfer window, and if transfers and the negotiations that go on in transfers are as protracted and drawn out as they are at our club, then obviously, it stands to reason that the same thing's going to go on when we're trying to get a new manager in the door. And I look, somebody said there that it's his visa that's delaying the whole thing. It could very well be that. Could very well be that. But you see, that's the thing. There's so many things that could be delaying this with Celtic involved. And I think if you're looking for the truth, I would say that Nancy is making certain demands because he's done his due diligence. He knows what he's walking into. And as we've said enough times, he's probably spoken to Brendan Rodgers. He knows exactly the kind of shit show that Celtic is at the moment. I'm sure he's done all his research. And he wants certain guarantees. Because he knows that if he doesn't get those guarantees, that it's going to bite him in the ass further on down the line. And he probably wants to insulate himself against that. And the board is probably pushing back, and they're probably saying, no, 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 no. And he's probably saying, no, well, I'm not accepting that unless I get that. So that's the reality of it. So I don't know, James, if you want to flesh it out a little bit further there, go for it. But I personally think that that's what's holding it up at the moment, that there's negotiations are getting protracted because Nancy wants certain guarantees.
Well, if he does, the Celtic board's going to have to give them at this point. At this point, they don't. As I said already, at this point, this has come too far. This is past the point of no return. If there were any doubts at all, we should never have leaked it to the media. We shouldn't be briefing journalists off the record and telling them that this is done. Martin O'Neill should not be sitting in front of the media the day and telling them it's done and that this is his final game in charge. We have come too far to pull out of this. We've come too far to fuck it up. We either get it done or the whole club is going to look absolutely ridiculous. And all the spin in the world about how Martin and Sean have got this under control and there's nothing to worry about. It's not going to fix it. None of that's going to wash with anybody. And it shouldn't. It will be another absolute shit show. And it's the last thing we can afford. And I know there's people saying, get him at the end of the season. If we get him at the end of the season, we might as well fucking forget the Champions League qualifiers because we're done for. If we have to find a new manager in the summer after pulling out a managerial search for this guy at the last minute, we are fucked. And you need to understand that. The seriousness of this cannot be overstated. We are fucked if we do it this way. We cannot possibly get this wrong. We need to get this over the line. They've gave themselves no wiggle room at all. Fans will not accept it, no matter what the situation is. Whether we've changed our mind, whether he changes his mind, we will look ridiculous and fans will go nuts. And they should, because it will be a disaster.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we don't accept, James. We're just anti-establishment upstairs. I mean, nobody cares what we don't like. Let's call it like it is. I mean, David C is telling me that what I said is fantasy stuff. How is it fantasy stuff when we look at what has gone on in the past? When we look at the Eddie Howe situation and what happened there. Now, one thing
possible that we mess this up.
Yeah, one thing you've got to understand about the Eddie Howe situation was we had a verbal agreement that time. We have no such thing with Nancy at the moment. There's no, they told us that they had a verbal agreement with Eddie Howe, and then they got into negotiations.
They shouldn't be telling the media anything. They shouldn't be telling their pals in the media that this is done. Martin O'Neill shouldn't be going around telling everybody that this is done. Martin O'Neill shouldn't be talking about this deal is approaching the end and this is my last European game. And he should have been going on TalkSport the day saying this will be my final game and it'll be in place by Saturday. Because if we can't get this done now, then this club has ceased to function as a serious organisation. That's a fact.
It already has ceased to function as a serious organisation, James. We can't. We have to accept that now. Look at that farce of an AGM. Look at Ross Desmond's statement. That's a totally dysfunctional club.
Worry. I am well aware that we are capable of this. I'm well aware of it. But honestly,
what we should be more hopeful, or I don't even know if hopeful is the word, is that we have to hope against hopes that we don't fuck this up. You know, because we've left ourselves with very little wiggle room now.
People at Celtic Park will have to pack their bags and beat it the same day. There's no way we can possibly fail to get this done now without somebody losing their job for it. And there should be more than one person loses their job for it. We can't do it. And as I say, no amount of spin about Martin and Sean have got this, and we've decided to get him at the end of the season. That ain't gonna cut it at all. No one will believe that.
You do realise there's a lot of fans out there would be happy with that.
Oh, they'll be happy with it, but they won't believe that that's what happened. Yeah. Because it stretches credulity a little bit too much. That you know, we've pursued this guy for all these weeks. We've came to the very brink of getting the deal done, and then went, "Nah, we kind of like what we've got better."
Yeah, well, how long were we pursuing Eddie Howe for? I mean, it was early 2021.
Eddie Howe knocked us back. This would not be that. This would be us saying, "Oh, we like the 73-year-old guy and the untested fucking assistant better than the guy who we pursued for all these weeks, who's supposed to be our number one choice." I mean, honestly, seriously, that would be we would never be taken seriously again by anybody, and we would deserve not to be. No one would ever believe that. I personally will not believe that is what happened.
We're not being taken seriously now, James. I at the risk of repeating myself here.
There is not being taken seriously and being a laughing stock, and that's what we would be. It would make what happened at Ibrox with their two managerial almost hires. It would make them look like models of professionalism, because at the very least they got knocked back. They got it almost to the point, and then they sent their two mad former executive guys out there and they screwed it up, or whatever the truth behind the breakdown of the negotiations is. This would be, we got it up to the line and then we decided we didn't want the guy after all, that we prefer Martin and Sean. It's bollocks. I'm sorry.
Well, if that happens, you know the answer.
And how we ever go into negotiations with another serious managerial candidate and say, yeah, everything's great and all that, we're almost there, and they'd be like, well, I'm just waiting for the phone call saying that you've changed your mind. Oh my man. That would make us a laughing stock. That's what it would do.
Okay, Joe, we've let this one drag on. I'll give you the final word. What's your final word? Short and sweet. On Wilfred Nancy.
It's possible. You're talking about the club that sold Kyogo Furuhashi, Adam Ida.
As I said, mate, we are capable of this. I know we are.
And Nicholas Kuhn in the build-up to Champions League qualifiers worth 40 million. This lot are absolutely well capable of making a complete dog's breakfast, of appointing a permanent manager, and they know already that no credible manager will speak to them. Credible managers will phone Brendan Rodgers and will decide, I'll just leave this for now. Someone else can take it on. So prepare for absolutely anything.
Okay. We'll move on because I'm sure we'll have plenty more to discuss on this particular subject. And what I want to move on to is, I'm sure that everybody saw it yesterday, the end where the Celtic fans were shoved into a corner, a few hundred Celtic fans, and the whole stand empty. And you got to ask yourself, how long more can this fucking lunacy go on for? Because it is utter lunacy. It's cutting your nose off to spite your face. Like, there was, I would guess, probably 5,000 empty seats in that stand yesterday. 5,000 seats that could have been filled by Celtic fans and could have put money in the coffers of Hibernian. And Hibernian are choosing to leave that stand empty. They could only get in a ground that holds almost 21,000. They only had 18,000, I think, fans at it. Their own fans are not going to fill the stand, clearly. So, like, what are they playing at? Why won't they accept our money? It's idiotic, if you ask me. It just makes no sense to see stands empty when they could be full, and the revenue that could give to a club that, you know, could use the revenue. I'm not saying that Hibs are struggling. Well, they are struggling financially. They had they've had a poor couple of years, and the fact that they're willing to not allow their stadium to be filled, just, it beggars belief. So, Joe, your opinion on this one? What? It's getting more and more farcical, isn't it?
Yes. First of all, something more important than Wilfred Nancy, ticket allocation, anything else. On Sunday, the Green Brigade, backed by the Celtic Fans Collective, are having a food bank collection before the game against Hearts. So if you're going to the game, try and look out some food stuff. You'll find on the Green Brigade and the Celtic Collective about what sort of foods to bring along. And also there'll be details that you can donate to it. So that's far more important than all these trivialities. On the issue of tickets, I hated this phrase when I was in the old-fashioned workplace, but after having a reasoned debate about many things, the answer would often be, it is what it is, and Michael Nicholson would shrug his shoulders. So since Dave King started this ball rolling in 2018, when he listened to the Moon Howlers on Follow, the allocation for away match. It'd be interesting to find out what was the Celtic allocation for away matches in season 2017-2018. Was a full stand at Tynecastle, a full stand at Easter Road, a full stand at Ibrox. Now, if you combine the three of them, you're maybe getting towards about 5,000. So it's a vicious circle. I don't see how it's ending. Clubs are happier to pander to apart from St Johnstone. I suppose what we should do is highlight the smarter clubs. So St Johnstone handed over three stands to Celtic last season. They realised the opportunity and they're top of the championship now. It might be that some of the money coming from that's helping their budget. And of course, we have Livingston. Livingston give us three stands, and without the guarantee of 3 visits from 2 Glasgow clubs, or possibly 4 visits a season, Livingston's budget in the SPFL Premiership would be greatly reduced. So other clubs, they seem to think that they're smart enough and they can do without this money, and it's better off to pander to their supporters. So I have absolutely no resolution to this, no idea how it's going to end. One thing it might help would be if Celtic offered bigger allocations at Celtic Park, which they could easily do. I'm not saying that most Motherwell, Kilmarnock, St Mirren don't need any extra, but Hearts are coming to Celtic Park on Sunday. There would be absolutely no issue if we increased the amount of tickets given to Hearts supporters. They're maybe getting about 1,100. Increase that to 1,800 or 2,000. I'll add something to the game. And if you're getting some additional tickets at Tynecastle, so much the better. So that's possibly one small avenue. I think it's unlikely. Michael Nicholson will not be bored on his backside. Peter Lowell doesn't bother going to away matches. So our £120,000 a year plus expenses chairman hasn't been to an away match this season. Do you think he's bothered about the allocation yesterday? So I don't know what's going to resolve it, but possibly Celtic could start doing things. But there's flying pigs outside.
Yeah, well, it really is Dave King's legacy. If there's one legacy that fuckwit has left in Scotland, it is that. And it's the cancer of the game. It was a cancer that he brought on the game by doing what he did.
Yeah, it was.
And the ripple effect that it's had since then. And look, I don't understand the logic of clubs doing what they're doing if they, turning away good money. I don't get it. So yeah, but it's definitely the legacy of Dave King. James, your view on it?
Well, I mean, it's easy to get into Celtic bashing here, right? But in this case, I'm not going to do that. The idea of giving these clubs any more tickets for Celtic Park, I would rather eat Ibrox's leftover cold pies and get any club in this league a single ticket more than they get right now, because almost all of them have embraced this idea with the zeal of a fanatic. And it doesn't matter that it was his disgraceful and disastrous imprint on the Scottish game. A lot of them have went along for the ride and satisfied the craziness in their own fan bases who've wanted it for years. I don't think any club would have done it had they not done it first. I completely blame them for it. But the fact that so many of them now have embraced this lunacy is a joke on all Scottish football. But the joke ultimately is on their own clubs. If the money that Hibs left on the table this time and the money they'll leave later on in the season, and when they do the same with the club across the city, if the money that they leave on the table for that is the difference between keeping Kieran Bowie for an extra year and having to sell him, or not being able to offer what a club wants for a player that they like, then that's where the consequence is. And that's where the insanity manifests itself. It's managers who should be complaining about this. They should be getting into their chairman and saying, well, you told me at the start of the season there was no money. Look at all those fucking empty seats. This is why there's no money. Because you're turning people away. They want to pay money to come sit and watch their team. And until some sanity dawns on a lot of people in Scottish football, as far as I'm concerned, it's a plague in all their houses. If they're happy, all these clubs that plead poverty all the time, we talk about the finance gap and all that. If they're happy to leave money on the table, then that's up to them. It's madness, it's insanity. I don't understand what they get out of it. I don't understand what they even think they get out of it, but it's up to them. And they'll pay the consequences for it, and they'll suffer the pain for it. And the fan groups who've been calling for it for years will ultimately lose it, because there are players they won't be able to buy. There are players they won't be able to keep because they can't offer the wages. I mean, was it Motherwell? I'm sure one of the SPFL clubs balloted its supporters on this and told them straight, your decision will impact how much money we can spend on the team and how much money we can give the manager. And they voted, you sell like whatever they want. You sell like as many tickets as you like. I mean, that was saying it was sensible. The club actually said this will have consequences and you need to think about that. And the thing about Hibs, I think the whole Hibs thing weird anyway, because Hibs fans called for the allocation cut, right? But it was for an allocation cut for them across the city, for all sorts of mayhem that they've caused in previous years. And when the Hibs board announced they were cutting Celtic's allocation, the Hibs fans were not too happy about it at the time. So maybe it's up to them to complain. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones losing it. It's the club that's got to lose it. It's the fans who lose it. It's the manager who will lose it. And I mean, I didn't realise all these clubs were rolling in money. They must be. They must be if they can turn that away. It's bonkers, man. It's
clearly not. The guy.
It was embarrassing for Scottish football as well. The Sky cameras seeing all the empty seats.
Yeah, but
for a team that's supposed to be. Somebody had said before the game, if Hibs got a result this week, right, and Hearts had managed to win, and Falkirk had got a result against the club across the city, then you'd have a 4-way title race. And Hibs would have been right in there, right? And Hibs fans can't even be arsed turning up to watch that. I mean, that's
but like you say, if the fans are embracing it, with zeal and they push for this and they want this, then like the whole premise of that is that we want this because we want to give the seats to our fans. But sure, if your fucking fans aren't showing up and filling the stadium, then what's the point? If you're pushing for something like that, then at least show up and turn up and support your team.
Hearts fans were selling all theirs for a while. Aberdeen fans were selling. Aberdeen was selling all theirs for a while, but Aberdeen's fell away as the form fell away. When Hearts are playing for 4th place this season, you might see it fall away then at Tynecastle as well. But and that's part of the lunacy here. A lot of these clubs will pursue this as long as they think that their own fans will fill some of the seats. But the second that stops happening, it'll be, Celtic, do you want an extra 3,000 tickets? And at that point, your club has a choice to make, and you should probably just say no. But of course, that disenfranchises your fans, and we won't. But here's the thing, right? Here's what somebody sent me something the other day on this, and I was quite surprised. Although I shouldn't be surprised, it's basic maths, and I should have been able to add up. I guess I wasn't thinking straight about it. Somebody had suggested that we have a European style allocation guarantee for away fans, and somebody sent me the list on it the other day, and it was like, even with like 1,000 tickets at Tynecastle or a few hundred tickets at Tynecastle, it's still over the 5%, and it's over the 5% at every club in the league except Ibrox. They're the only club that Disney gives a 5% plus allocation, even with all the cuts.
Yeah.
I know Michael Nicholson wants that problem solved, Joe. I know he wants our 5% back.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll fight for that, Joe. Yeah.
He has fought for that. The whole club has fought for that very aggressively.
They do love that old firm tag.
Oh, they sure should do. Okay, guys, we'll move on from that one. We will just make, before I move on to your predictions for the next 2 games, we'll just make one point. the Hearts challenge has definitely petered out. It's taking a very similar, not as bad, but a similar turn to the way things went for Aberdeen. They're on a downward spiral now, and they seem to have chucked it. I think they're a busted flush now, and I'd say we will probably beat them and beat them comfortably on Saturday. And we'll be top of the league. The inevitable will happen, and James, you said it. That it was all smoke and mirrors, and it was all, they were going to look good for a while, but they were going to fall away. So it definitely after the weekend, and it looks like reality is coming home to roost at Ibrox as well. That Danny Roll is just he's just another what would you say, bit of cannon fodder. That's what he's going to be soon enough. So look, we'll move on to the midweek game and the game. Do go on.
It was so obvious what was going on with Hearts. I mean, it really was. It's like the jokey comparison that I use is the Roadrunner. When the Roadrunner overshoots the cliff, when the Coyote overshoots the cliff, he can stay in the air just so long as he doesn't realise that he's overshot the cliff. But the second he does, down he goes. And what happened to Hearts was that they left Tynecastle on the same day we did, 8 points ahead, and suddenly it sunk into a lot of their players. It's like, holy shit, we could actually win this. And the pressure of that just fell on them like a fucking ton weight. And then they kind of carry it. And it's no harm to Hearts. They're probably assembling a really good team. But they're not assembling a team that has won things or is used to winning things. And you need to learn how to carry that weight. And there was no way. There was just no way they were going to do it. It was impossible. Couldn't even imagine it. And this, by the way, the same applies to the club across the city and the players that they've signed. You're not going to take the title away with four in a row winners by signing League One players who've never won a trophy in their entire careers and don't see any future prospect yet. A strategy that made no sense whatsoever when they signed all the players in the summer. And I know they paid a lot of money for some of them, but as I said, if these guys had signed for Aberdeen or Hearts or Hibs, you would have been like, yeah, okay, so what? But these guys were expected to carry him through a Champions League qualifying campaign and then take a title off. It was never going to happen. Absolute madness. Same as with Hearts.
Yeah, but look, you made a point there, I think, in an article a few days ago about the Ibrox side and the current crop of players that they have there, that these guys are only going there to steal a wage. Yeah. They're not going there with the mentality that this is a winning club, because it's not a winning club. It hasn't been a winning club since its inception back in 2012. It's won sweet fuck all. St. Johnstone has won as much as it. So
I laugh at the guy, right? But Tavernier's their only link to what a successful season looks like. And when he goes at the end of this season, when his contract's up, that's it. There's not a single winner left in the building.
So I mean, that's the reality. They just don't. The players aren't going in there with this winning mentality. Yet the expectancy levels are still and always will be through the fucking roof there, and that's what is going to continue them on this cycle forevermore, because they just won't accept that they're not the old club. That's it. They just will not accept that they're not the old club. So, any view on that, Joe? What do you think? Are they on a what would you say, a roll to just continue this cycle forevermore?
They're certainly on a roll. Take a look at their fixtures from now until I think about the 10th of January. It's absolutely wonderful. So the next week it's Dundee United away, Kilmarnock away, and Ferencváros. We've got Hearts before Christmas, Celtic on the 3rd of January, and Aberdeen away early in January. And their two easy home matches are St Mirren and Motherwell, two clubs that have got good experience of getting results at Ibrox. So, roll with it. They had their 4-match winning run, and as usual, they all jumped on board that, and here we go. But I think the cold reality bit in again yesterday, the pleasure of listening to Radio Scotland commentary, the last 10 minutes. That was
Right,
hilarious. Alistair Lamont was almost in tears. Stephen Craigan was giving him a bit of moral support, and Stephen, Mr. Charisma, Tomo Thompson, you really need to listen to it. If you get the chance to listen to it, if you can find it anywhere, tune in. Just it's abject misery. They're trying to big things up, and they're soiling themselves every time Falkirk cross the halfway line or win a corner. So
shoot it up my veins.
It's good hilarity there. Hearts were, I think, second bottom this time last year. So Hearts have improved a hell of a lot, but you don't, even in a dross league like this, even in a league where the Conference League side have got 2 points from 5 matches or 4 matches, and that they drew at home with the 4th best team in Armenia or something last week. So this is a really poor league. I'll leave it at that. It's absolute rubbish, as the coefficient proves. So Hearts have improved, but they had a lot of last-minute winners. They had a nice wee purple patch that got them all excited and going. They're drifting back. Hopefully don't drift back as far as Aberdeen did. Remember, Aberdeen were 9 points clear of the Tribute Act at the end of October, and by the end of the year, they were about 9 points adrift of them. But more important for us, Dundee on Wednesday, I would hope it'll be a Kilmarnock Falkirk type performance where we can win by a couple of goals. But we must remember our squad is very, very short. And Martin O'Neill will be well aware of the 3 games that come after that. Whether he's in charge or not, Hearts on Sunday, Roma on Thursday, and then St Mirren at Hampden is a very tough schedule. We've just come through a tough schedule of 3 matches in 8 days. We're facing the same coming up. So I expect a comfortable-ish win against Dundee. The Hearts game will be tight. They'll be battling for everything. They always do. I would expect Celtic to win by 1 goal. It'll be could be as nervy as the last 20 minutes yesterday. Although Hibs weren't peppering the goal, there's always that feeling that there's one honest mistake lurking there that can turn a victory into a draw. So the Celtic roller coaster will most certainly be. But I would expect on Sunday evening we'll be top of the league. Whether we've got a new manager, whether Martin O'Neill's still cracking jokes about paperwork and visas and this, that, and the next thing, who knows? But somebody says we are not in a position to be cocky. We've won 3 matches in the bounce. We've won 6 out of 7 with a new manager. We get an absolute hiding away to Midtjylland. That could happen with Roma. It depends how interested they are. The squad is still quite vulnerable. So enjoy the victories while we can. Absolutely nothing can be taken for granted. But I suspect there's a 90% chance we're top of the league on Sunday, which is a very welcome turnaround. But there's still tons and tons of work. And James mentioned earlier when he was going to the managers about if we don't do this or that, we've got no chance in the Champions League. James, we've got very little chance of reaching the Champions League next summer.
We will reach the Champions League groups next year. Yeah. No problem at all. We should have reached them this year.
Yep. And last time, and the time before.
There's no possible team in those qualifiers that we should be concerned about. None.
James, what if we come up against Malmo, Maribor, AEK Athens, Cluj, Ferencvaros, Midtjylland, or Kairat Almaty again?
A halfway good Celtic team is good enough to beat any of those teams.
Yep. And we've saw it 7 in the last 9 years what happens. So we'll leave that one to Stu. There's a World Cup coming up next summer. If we don't get in 3 or 4 really good first-team players in January, you'll be scrambling about through August, trying to put a team together for qualifiers. So, and whoever we're playing against in the Champions League qualifiers, if we win the league, they'll be very well prepared, they'll be well motivated, and they'll know exactly what they've got to do to get through. Whereas, have a guess at the Celtic team that will be playing in Champions League qualifiers in August. No one's got a clue who's going to be involved. So that's definitely for another day. Hopefully we're top of the league on Sunday and we'll take it game by game.
Okay, Joe, before I move over to James for predictions, I will give you just one question I have for you. You said if you reckon it's 90% chance we'll be top of the table on Sunday. What is the percentage chance of us having a new manager by then?
50% chance we'll have a new manager.
50,
we might
50.
we
Okay.
might not. Maybe's aye, maybe's no, as a wise man once said.
Absolutely, yeah. James, predictions. Dundee first.
Very comfortable Dundee. Very comfortable win over Dundee. It's Martin Swan's song, and the whole crowd will be up for it. The whole ground will be swaying, and we will get there easily. Hearts is a different game entirely, and that's going to depend on a number of factors like who's in the dugout. I still think we're good enough to win. I think it's written in the stars now. Hearts have lost it, right? Hearts had it in their hands, but that's what happens when you drop it. You don't get it back. You don't get to get it back. And I expect us to be top of the league on Monday with a new manager. I expect that by the time we sit here next week, everything will be different.
So you're going for 90% top of the league and 90% new manager, yeah?
I'm going for 100% in both. We will comfortably Dundee will beat Hearts and love a new manager.
Oh, I admire your optimism, James. I really do.
Wilfred Nancy's first game at Celtic Park will put us top of the table.
Is that Hearts on Sunday?
Hearts on Sunday.
Okay.
Well,
I guess we can all discuss this next week. We can all discuss this next week. But anyway, look, I'll give my opinion on what's going to happen. So I think that, yeah, likewise what you said there, James. I think, if it's Martin Swan's song, there'll be a great atmosphere at Celtic Park on Wednesday evening. And he will deserve that send-off, no two ways about it, because of what he's done and the way he has steadied the ship. I mean, he has been a beacon in the middle of all the shit at the moment. And he has, despite, I know we had our reservations about what he said after the AGM, but then again, he went on in last week's press conference to kind of correct as such what he said to a degree. So I don't really care at this point in time what he did or didn't say. What I do care about is what he's achieved when it comes to the results he's got for the club. And we didn't mention it, and I feel it does warrant to mention that was the performance against Feyenoord was absolutely outstanding. And the fact that he pulled that performance out of the limited resources that he had was a credit to him. It was an absolute credit to him, because I don't think anybody gave us a snowball's chance in hell of getting a result out there, and to get a result in the fashion that we did, an awful lot of kudos and credit needs to go to Martin O'Neill. That is a fantastic result when you consider the squad that we have at the moment to choose from, and to go out there and to fight the way that we did, and even his what would you say, his confidence in the front line that he chose to go out against Feyenoord.
He never made a single mistake. Team selection, substitution, tactics, approach, everything was spot on. Yeah,
it was, and it's a credit to the man. And it's the one thing that if he does finish up on Wednesday night, that will be the abiding memory I have of his time and as interim manager, was that result at Feyenoord. Yep. And the fact that if he's left us in a position where we can go top of the table at the weekend, look, it's job done for him, and he walks away with his head held really high. And he can take massive credit for what he's achieved in that short space of time that he's been there. So
he should also get me a credit than he's getting for the cup semi-final. I read one absolutely ludicrous thing today about these are the matches that will define Wilfred Nancy's time at Celtic, and one of them was the New Year's game, and it was which of the two will blot his old firm copybook. I'm thinking, well, even if you're assuming that there's such a thing anymore, somebody wants to take a look at Danny Rowe's copybook because there's a very big mark in it.
Yeah,
Martin O'Neill's name on it.
No, I mean, he every game that he's played, bar Midtjylland, and I think that was just, look, you're playing against a team that was riding high at that time. They were top, and look, they experienced their first defeat last week as well. So, but they were on a roll at that time, and it was never going to be easy against them. But in terms of what he's achieved has been amazing. But I will say that with the Hearts game, that we're probably going to. It'll be tight, yeah. I think we'll win 1 or 2-0 maybe in that one. But it will be. I think it's going to be an open game because Hearts are going to have to go for it. So they can't really set up to defend against us. And the way Martin has the team playing at the moment, you know, if you look at the way we played in the first half against Hibs, if they approach it again in that way, where they're fighting for every ball and they're first to every ball, then I think that will be the difference, and I think that will grind out the win in the end.
You make an interesting point there. I'll need to explore that properly in an article because I don't want to bang on too much about it tonight. But I think that the equations changed for McInnes and how he approaches that game. I think if he comes top of the week, then his team are going to be confident. If he comes with 8-point lead, his team's got to be confident enough and have a go. If he's even got a 4-point lead, there'll be pressure on him to come and have a go. But if he comes and does damage limitation, I won't be in the slightest bit surprised. Comes and tries to go leave with a point, I won't be surprised at all.
But that's not good for him. You know, I mean, even if it's a draw,
but the defeat's an actual disaster.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes and tries to maintain what
so, yeah. So look, that brings this show to its conclusion, and we are a year on the air today, guys. Well, two days short of being a year on the air. It's our 56th show. That's a sign, 56. And we've had an amazing year. And I have to thank both of you guys for all your contributions throughout the year. It's been a fantastic year. I mean, it's and I think I'm really happy with the you know, the progress the show has made over that period of time and the subscriptions we've picked up in that period of time. So it looks like, you know, there's a good cult following out there that like the Trinity Tims. So we'll keep it going and we'll keep it growing. And as we always say, if you like what we do, hit the thumbs up, post a comment, and subscribe. And to be fair,
those guys, by the way, you thanked. I think we should also thank Simon and Hector, George and Jonesy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the support they've given has been immense.
The work that the guys do in the background as well, you know, they've been very supportive of us. So, you know, I think when the idea was bandied about just over a year ago, they jumped on board fully, and the results have been very good. I think we can all be fairly happy overall with what we've managed to produce and put out over the last year or so. So on that note, I will say good luck to you guys, and we will talk next week, and we will be discussing whether we have a new manager in place and whether we're top of the table. So until then, have a great week, guys, and we'll catch up with you next week.